Look at this bottle. It's bright. It's colorful. It tastes like summer, birthday parties, and fun. It is the second most popular soft drink in history, consumed millions of times every single day. But what if I told you that this drink
is actually a ghost of the Third Reich?
While millions of people were suffering and the world was burning, this drink was invented in the shadows of Nazi Germany. It wasn't created for fun. It was created for survival. Most people think they know the story. They think Fanta was just Nazi Coke. But the truth is much stranger, much darker, and surprisingly, much more accidentally genius. Today, we are going back to 1940 to answer one question. How did a desperate man, a pile of garbage, and a global war create the drink you have in your fridge right now? Welcome to the forbidden history of Fanta. To understand the nightmare, we first have to understand the dream. Before World War II, Coca-Cola wasn't just an American icon, it was a German obsession. In the 1930s, under the leadership of an American-born visionary named Ray Rivington Powers, Coke sales in Germany exploded. We are talking about going from 6,000 cases a year to over 100,000 practically overnight. By the time the 1936 Olympics took place in Berlin, Coca-Cola was one of the official sponsors. Imagine that. Swastikas and Coca-Cola logos side by side. The Germans loved it. They didn't see it as an alien drink. They claimed it as their own. But then, tragedy struck. Powers died in a car accident, and a new man took the throne. Meet Max Keith. Keith was different. He was a German bureaucratic mastermind. He was imposing, terrifying to his employees, and utterly obsessed with Coca-Cola. He wasn't a member of the Nazi Party. He actually refused to join, but he knew how to play the game. He realized that to keep Coke alive in a fascist country, he had to make the Nazis believe that Coca-Cola was a German product. And it worked. By 1939, Germany had 43 bottling plants and over 600 distributors. It was the company's biggest market outside the USA. Max Keith was on top of the world. But history was about to pull the rug out from under him. September 1939. Hitler invades Poland. Britain and France declare war. The borders snap shut. For Max Keith, this was a disaster. You see, you can build bottling plants in Germany. You can bottle the water and the sugar, but the magic? The secret syrup known as merchandise number 5? That only came from America. And now, with the British Navy blockading the Atlantic, the supply line was cut. The reality sank in. The syrup was running out. Max Keith looked at his warehouses. He calculated the days. Once the syrup was gone, the factories would close. His 10,000 employees would be drafted into the army to die on the front lines. The company would be seized by the Nazis as enemy property. He had two choices. 1, give up, close the doors and lose everything. Or 2, invent a miracle. Keith gathered his top chemists. The order was simple, but impossible. Create a new drink to keep the machines running, but you cannot use any ingredients that are rationed for the war effort. No real sugar, no spices, no citrus fruits from overseas. Nothing. So what did they have? They had trash, literally. Keith's team went to other food industries and asked for their leftovers. They found two main ingredients. First, apple pomace. This is the fibrous, mushy residue left over after you squeeze apples for cider. It's essentially apple compost. Second, whey. This is the liquid byproduct of cheese curdling. It's milky, watery, and definitely not something you'd want in a refreshing soda. Mix those together, sweeten it with saccharin, an artificial sweetener, and whatever fruit scraps they could find, and you got a drink. It wasn't orange, it wasn't clear. It was a murky, beige, brownish liquid. And the taste? It changed every week. If they got apples, it tasted like apples. If they got berries, it tasted like berries. It was a Frankenstein beverage. Now, it needed a name. In a brainstorming session, Keith told his team to use their imagination. In German, Fantasie. A salesman named Joe Knipp immediately shouted,
Fanta!
It was short, it was catchy, and most importantly, it didn't sound American. Fanta launched in 1940, and it exploded. But here is a fact that usually gets left out of the history books. People didn't just drink Fanta because they were thirsty. They bought it because it was food. Sugar was strictly rationed. It was gold. Fanta, because of the beet sugar they eventually secured, was incredibly sweet. German housewives began buying Fanta by the crate, not to drink, but to pour into soups, stews, and cakes to add calories and sweetness. Fanta literally became a survival ingredient. Meanwhile, Max Keith was walking a tightrope. The Nazis wanted to nationalize the company. They wanted to imprison him for working for an American corporation. But Keith was cunning. He strategically placed Fanta at Nazi events to keep the officials happy, all while technically keeping the company loyal to the headquarters in Atlanta. He was preserving the business for the Americans, right under Hitler's nose. Was he a hero protecting his workers? Or was he fueling the Third Reich with sugar and caffeine? That is a question historians still debate. 1945. The war ends. Germany is in ruins. The American executives at Coca-Cola finally established contact with Berlin. They expected the worst. They thought the factories were destroyed or that Keith had stolen the company for himself. Instead, they found Max Keith waiting for them. The factories were still standing. The machines were oiled. And the profits? Keith had saved every single Reichsmark of profit made from Fanta during the war. He handed it all back to Coca-Cola. But Coca-Cola faced a dilemma. They had their precious Coke back. Should they kill Fanta? The drink was born of scarcity. It was made of cheese and apple scraps. It was the Nazi drink. The sales figures didn't lie. The brand name was powerful. So, in 1955, Coca-Cola relaunched Fanta in Naples, Italy. This time, they ditched the cheese and apple scraps. They used local Italian oranges. The liquid turned bright orange. The taste became citrusy. And the dark past was quietly swept under the rug. But today, there are over 100 flavors of Fanta worldwide. It is a symbol of joy, but it serves as a fascinating reminder that history is never black and white. Sometimes, it's beige. Innovation often comes from the darkest places. And Max Keith? He was eventually promoted to head of Coca-Cola Europe. So the next time you hear that distinct fizz of a Fanta bottle opening, take a moment. You aren't just drinking a soda, you are drinking a history lesson. A liquid survivor of the 20th century's darkest hour. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history's hidden secrets, click this video right here to find out why Volkswagen was also, well, that's a story for another time. Don't forget to subscribe. Stay curious.